A message about moral purity, delivered with conviction, clarity, and confidence, has ignited a firestorm that now threatens to consume the very voices proclaiming it. Weiss and Joni, two prominent figures whose teachings on lust, accountability, and the human heart have resonated with audiences while simultaneously raising difficult and deeply uncomfortable questions about credibility, consistency, and truth. Wait a minute. Have you subscribed to Saints and Scandals Report? Before we proceed, take a moment to support the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel, as this makes us grow and also bring more as they unfold. The teaching itself is not new. In fact, it is rooted in centuries of Christian theology. Lust is not something imposed from the outside, but something that originates within. It is described as an internal choice, a condition of the heart rather than a reaction to external stimuli. This idea aligns closely with biblical passages that emphasize the inner life of individuals as the true source of moral action. The argument is simple yet profound. Temptation may exist in the world, but lust begins when a person internally agrees with that temptation. In this framework, responsibility is not shared with circumstance, environment, or appearance. It is owned entirely by the individual. This interpretation reframes one of the most debated aspects of human behavior. Instead of focusing on external triggers, it directs attention inward, toward intention, desire, and personal responsibility. The implications are significant. If lust is entirely internal, then blame cannot be shifted outward. It cannot be attributed to what someone else wears, how they behave, or even what is culturally normalized. It becomes a matter of choice, a deliberate decision that occurs within the mind and heart. For many believers, this teaching is both empowering and demanding. It offers a clear path to moral responsibility but removes any excuse for failure. It insists that individuals must take full ownership of their thoughts, rejecting the idea that they are passive recipients of temptation. This perspective has been widely praised for promoting accountability, particularly among men, who are often warned in Scripture about guarding their eyes and thoughts. Yet it also extends beyond gender, asserting that both men and women are equally capable of lust and equally responsible for managing it. This equal accountability is a key component of the teaching. It challenges long-standing cultural narratives that place disproportionate blame on women for being objects of desire. By emphasizing that lust originates within the observer, not the observed, the teaching seeks to remove shame from those who are looked at and place it squarely on those who choose to look with intent. In doing so, it attempts to correct what many see as a harmful imbalance in how responsibility has historically been assigned. At the same time, the teaching draws heavily on biblical warnings against covetousness. The commandment against coveting, often interpreted as a prohibition against desiring what belongs to another, serves as a foundation for this understanding of lust. It expands the concept beyond physical attraction to include any form of disordered desire. Whether it is longing for another person, envying someone else's life, or desiring what is not rightfully one's own, the principle remains the same. Such desires originate in the heart and must be resisted. This emphasis on internal discipline leads naturally into a broader message about moral responsibility. The teaching does not stop at identifying the problem. It offers a solution rooted in self-control, spiritual awareness, and intentional decision-making. Individuals are encouraged to guard their hearts, monitor their thoughts, and cultivate habits that align with their values. It is a message that resonates deeply with those seeking structure and clarity in a world often described as morally ambiguous. However, this is where the narrative begins to shift. While the message itself is widely accepted, even admired, the focus has increasingly turned to the messengers. Critics have begun to question whether those delivering such strict teachings are living in accordance with them. The scrutiny is particularly intense when it comes to the personal lives of Weiss and Joni, whose relationship timeline has become a focal point of public debate. The controversy centers on the timing and circumstances of their relationship, which some observers describe as overlapping or raising questions about boundaries. For critics, this is not a minor issue. It strikes at the heart of the message being preached. If lust is indeed an internal choice, and if individuals are fully responsible for their actions, then those who teach this principle are expected to exemplify it. Any perceived inconsistency becomes more than a personal matter. It becomes a challenge to the credibility of the teaching itself. This tension highlights a broader issue that extends beyond any single individual or organization. It raises the question of whether a message can remain valid if the messenger is perceived as flawed. Supporters argue that truth is not diminished by human imperfection. They point out that throughout history, moral and spiritual teachings have often been delivered by individuals who themselves struggle to live up to them. In this view, the focus should remain on the message, not the messenger. Critics, however, take a different stance. They argue that credibility is inseparable from conduct, particularly in positions of leadership. When individuals present themselves as authorities on moral issues, their personal behavior becomes part of the message. Any disconnect between what is taught and what is lived creates a perception of hypocrisy that can undermine trust. This is especially true in the context of religious leadership, where integrity is often seen as essential to spiritual authority. The situation is further complicated by the role of Daystar television network, the platform through which these teachings are broadcast. As one of the largest Christian television networks in the world, Daystar holds significant influence. Its programs reach millions of viewers, many of whom look to it for guidance and inspiration. This level of visibility amplifies both the impact of its message and the consequences of any controversy. In recent months, the network has faced increasing scrutiny over its handling of the situation. Critics have accused it of avoiding direct engagement with the controversy, choosing instead to continue broadcasting teachings on moral purity without addressing the questions surrounding its leadership. This perceived lack of transparency has fueled further criticism, with some viewers expressing frustration over what they see as a double standard. The debate has become deeply polarized. On one side are those who believe that the teachings remain valuable regardless of the controversy. They emphasize the importance of personal accountability and argue that the message should not be discarded because of the imperfections of those delivering it. On the other side are those who see the controversy as evidence of a deeper problem, one that calls into question not only the credibility of the individuals involved but also the integrity of the institution itself. This division reflects a broader tension within religious communities about how to respond to allegations of inconsistency or misconduct among leaders. It is a question that has been asked repeatedly throughout history, from ancient times to the modern era. Can flawed individuals effectively communicate moral truth, or does their failure invalidate their message? There is no simple answer. What is clear, however, is that the stakes are high. For many viewers, this is not just an abstract debate but a deeply personal issue. It affects their trust in the institutions they support, the leaders they follow, and the teachings they embrace. It challenges them to reconcile the ideals they believe in with the realities they observe. At its core, the controversy underscores the importance of alignment between belief and behavior. It serves as a reminder that teachings about morality carry weight only when they are accompanied by visible integrity. Without that alignment, even the most compelling message can lose its impact. As the debate continues, one thing remains certain: the conversation is far from over. It will likely evolve, drawing in new voices and perspectives, and forcing both supporters and critics to examine their assumptions. In the process, it may lead to greater clarity, not only about the specific situation at hand but also about the broader principles of accountability, transparency, and trust. Ultimately, the issue goes beyond any single teaching or controversy. It speaks to the fundamental relationship between message and messenger, and to the expectations placed on those who claim to speak with authority. It challenges individuals and institutions alike to consider what it truly means to live out the values they promote. And in a world where credibility is increasingly fragile, that question may be more important than ever. If you found this deep dive insightful, consider subscribing for more thoughtful analysis like this.